Education, Honorable Mr. Divine Ayizwe, Acting Chief Director, Ministry of Education, distinguished heads of agencies, directors, special invited guests, development partners, fellow educators, the press, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank the Ministry and the organizers of the 2022 National Education Week for the opportunity to chair the event of this week. It was quite an honor, and like most of you, I have learned a lot. I think it is in order to show appreciation to the ministry and the organizers for making this year's event possible, even amidst challenges in the country. So can we show appreciation to all those that put the events together? I would also like to echo what the MC said, to thank our development partners for the interest they show in our educational system and the support they provide to keep us going, especially those who provided financial support for this week's event: USAID, UNICEF, FCDO, UNESCO, World Bank, IPA, and the rest. So we thank you, and can we show appreciation for them as well? And apart from these who directly supported the event, I know there are several funding partners that honored the invitation to be here, and a lot of you have been here since the beginning. You have taken active interest in the program and have taken the opportunity to meet and interact with the various investee organizations that are here. You sat in their presentations to know more about their work. The Ministry of Education, the Ghana Education in general, appreciate what you have done. Can we show appreciation to them as well? And one remarkable thing that I have seen this year at the Educational Week is the exhibitions in the foyer. They showcase that a lot are happening in the educational system and that the Ministry of Education and its agencies are working hard. Even though, as I'm sure you would agree with me, like teachers in our Ghana education system, you know, when they do their terminal report, they always write, no matter how well you did, they will say there is room for improvement, right? So we thank our exhibitors for telling us about your good work across the various educational value chain. Thank you very much. We start off on Monday with a remark that I made: that education must be worth our time all the time, even in the times of financial distress. So I thank you all for honoring the invitation and making time to be here this week. I'm sure we are all aligned with the fact that if our educational systems are properly implemented to provide us the best anchor and hope for the future that we all seek, quality education in our schools is surely the best way to future-proof, the future citizens that we are developing to make sure they can compete in our ever-changing world. And I'm also sure that you agree that we cannot have quality education that can transform our schools and usher in the national transformation we seek unless we pause periodically, as we've done this week, to reassess our policies, the implementation of such policies, make changes where necessary, and be abreast with changing trends in educational research and system delivery that are making the kind of impact that we are looking for in Ghana as well. So that is why the theme chosen was just right on point: assessing educational policy for effective school delivery and national transformation. I was just following the presentation done by IPA about recommendations, things that we have. There's a lot that are happening, conversations are happening. One thing that we need to do is to make sure we are translating all of that into action, right? So the objectives of this week, were review the sector performance over the past medium term, review the implementation of policies and key programs in the sector, engage and inform sequence of emerging policy practice for effective service delivery, deliberate on how the sector can use evidence-based policies and programs to improve learning outcomes and management of education, and then, as we've seen some of them, make recommendations on best practices and new approaches to be adopted by the ministry. As teachers and educators, one thing that we do is assessing our learners vis-a-vis target objectives we set for them, don't we? After the assessment, if majority of our learners make the grades or can demonstrate the skills that we have taught them, we feel that our objectives have been met. So as we wrap up, it is important that we ask ourselves the following: how have we fared this week in terms of meeting our set objectives? What were we hoping to achieve? Did we manage to meet the threshold that we set for ourselves? From the organizations to presenters to participants, What did we seek to achieve, and how well did we fare? What went well? What can we improve on? Are there some bottlenecks in our educational system that we all must commit ourselves to clearing in order to speed up the outcome that we want? And above all, how are we going to ensure that we have all that we have talked about, as I said on Monday, that we transition from talk shop to walk shop, walking the talk? I hope we all commit ourselves deeply to improving on whatever we do, in whatever area we find ourselves, to make education serve the purpose it is meant to serve. That is creating opportunities for all our learners to succeed, helping to remove anything that stands in their way, and making sure education truly makes the impact we all seek, and that is national transformation. Honorable Deputy Minister, Chief Director of the Ministry, ladies and gentlemen, let me bring my remarks to a close by telling a short story about a very patriotic head teacher in one of our basic schools in a very rural Ghana. In the year 2007, there were 123 enrolled in this basic school in a place called Doma Abuabo. The school had been losing pupils to some low-fee private schools. The building they were studying was falling apart, having been built, can you imagine, in 1943. In that deplorable situation, a young woman emerged in the school who had been posted to teach primary 6. This young new teacher took immediate interest in her school and learners. And since the pupils in her class were just about 23, she would escort each one of them after school to each one of their homes. In the evenings, she would wait for the learners to come to where she stayed so she could aid them to read. Though she didn't have electricity in her own room, she tried to make herself happy with a small kerosene lantern. The joy of seeing the children and the school progress was enough for her. Due to her selfless attitude toward work, she was appointed by the Municipal Education Director as an acting head teacher for the school in 2010. In 2011, she was confirmed as a substitute head teacher alongside being a classroom teacher. The enrollment of the school started going up. From 123, today there are 507 learners in that school. All the kids that have moved from the public school into the private school have moved back. Now that is a trend we don't see. This new head teacher employed lots of interventions to help sustain learners' interests, such as the formation of school cultural troop, girls' club, inter-house competition, and so on and so forth. Through her able staff and leadership, she has been able to raise academic standards of the school, and this helped the school to win the first ever annual circuit inter-schools reading competition in 2007-2018. Teachers' attitude towards work in that school has enhanced. The utmost desire of this young woman, as she put it herself, listen to what she says, to change the face of education in rural communities using her school as a focal point. On her own, she has managed to secure computers, scanners, printers, projector to aid ICT teaching in that rural school. When she realized that quality education cannot be achieved without adequate educational facilities, as these motivate learners to learn as well as facilitate teaching and learning, she took upon herself to lobby for 6-unit classroom block for the primary session in 2010. With the support of her staff and the community, she organized a fundraising activity in aid of building a 3-unit classroom block for the KG pupils who were studying an old aluminum sheet structure. She will write a series of proposals to GASEM, to US Embassy, some financial institution, and finally, she would do everything a head teacher in a very deprived community to make sure the school works for her. Finally, she get fund to come to her aid to construct a 3-unit block, which is now about 97% complete. She will write proposals to benefit people to solicit support for the school to help secure teaching and learning resources. She's been able to provide 8 bicycles to learners who commute from other villages to access education in her school at Doma Abuabo, and has, with using some of her own salary, helped to secure bicycles for 2 teachers who live outside. And during the COVID-19, she would distribute some educational materials to learners to keep them engaged. Whilst at home, she would group teachers into clusters, and after a few weeks, follow up to monitor the progress of their work. And having left the school's premises for so long because of COVID, this young head teacher, took upon herself. She devoted her November and December salary, 2020 salary, to keep the school environment clean and tidy so that when school was back into session, learners will have a conducive learning environment to study. In view of this, she painted a 6-unit classroom block to give it a facelift to welcome the students back to class. Because of her selfless service in her community, this young woman has been installed as a development queen mother of the community where she works. This was not because, in our communities, you become a development, queen mother or chief when you have some money to give, right? Now, she doesn't have the money, but she knows how to really lift her community up. In 2020, she was actually voted as the first runner-up of the Ghana Teacher Prize 2020 and received a VW Amarok pickup. In the same 2020, she was a winner for the Education School Leadership Award, and her school also won the Most Improved School Award, Educom Awards in 2020. Yesterday, I was speaking to her as late as 8 p.m. And I was telling her about what was going on here. She didn't know there was National Education Conference going on. And this afternoon, she called me and said she wanted to come and find out what was happening. So she was in Accra, and that she was heading towards the National Education Center. The International Conference Center. Honorable Deputy Minister, Honorable Chief Director, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, help me introduce to you Ms. Gloria Enima, sitting right here in the pew. I wanted to tell this story as I brought my remarks to a close, to tell all of us that with people like Gloria, there is hope in Ghana. There is hope in our educational system. That hope is not all that lost. Hope that with little efforts, we can manage the phase of education in Ghana, no matter where we are located. Because of people like Gloria, Ghana can achieve the transformation we seek through education. We can all emulate her good example. We can do it. Yes, we can. Thank you very much.